À l'histoire, le fait que je l'ai supprimé, je me suis concentré après sur le fait de pousser le joueur à imaginer ce qui traverse, imaginer la raison du pourquoi de cet environnement, du fait qu'il n'y ait personne. Et donc cette volonté d'avoir quelque chose d'épuré, de minimaliste, pour faire travailler l'imagination du joueur, pour le forcer à créer sa propre histoire, son interprétation du jeu, et le fait d'avoir un gameplay relativement minimaliste.
NaissanceE's most interesting choice to me is to have every wall, floor, and other architecture completely gray. The only color that follows you throughout most of the game is the red haze that covers the screen whenever you take damage. This means that even the biggest rooms you come across on your journey carry with them a certain sense of claustrophobia. There is a suffocating amount of darkness in Naissance that the flat gray geometry only serves to accentuate. Even in Blame, whenever the characters stepped out of cramped hallways and derelict passages into seemingly endless chasms, there was a sense of freedom, of opportunity. The untamed vastness of the structure seemed itself a sort of exciting wilderness. There is none of that in Naissance. Instead of wonder and apprehension, I feel more crushed out in these open spaces than in any of the game's many vents and tiny corridors. The countless lights in the distance do nothing to quell this oppressive darkness at the heart of what can barely even be called architecture anymore. At what point does a city stop being a city and becomes just shapes? Portal 2 is a good point of comparison here. Even though the Aperture facility seems just as unimaginably large and utterly hostile, it doesn't impart the same kind of hopelessness. You can still find an abundance of light and color, even in its deliberately more sterile parts. While in Naissance, there's nothing to really hold on to. You are nothing to this place, and this place is nothing for you.
Avec le proto.
Non, l'idée est venue dès les premiers prototypages.
Ouais.
Et c'était une manière de sentir, d'établir une sorte de symbiose avec le joueur, entre le joueur et l'avatar, et de faire prendre conscience de son personnage, et aussi une manière d'apprécier les distances en fait.
Ouais.
Le fait de parcourir, comme il y a énormément de distances de grandes distances à parcourir dans le jeu, le fait de devoir s'impliquer dans la course, ça permet de mieux recentrer cet espace.
By far, one of the other biggest factors that make Naissance so affecting to me is the insistence on the player character's physicality. You are human in Naissance, and you are often reminded of it. You have to breathe manually, and your vision is clouded with blood when you get hurt. The absence of a first-person model, while it may seem contradictory, actually enhances this effect. Instead of an obvious facsimile, the game simply lets the mind fill in the blanks, thus removing another layer of mental separation between you and the game world. You, a living, breathing human, are trapped in a both wholly unnatural and inhuman world. Matte gray as far as the eye can see, and likely at least a couple trillion miles more. I wonder if I'd rather not see at all.
Stuff like this is with the human mind. Where there is no scary monster all around, boys, just a pure concept. A conversation in recording context. Silver, 25 buildings, 5 shots per turn. 5 consecutive misses earn the opponent a full goal. First one to detonate on the opponent's building wins.
Concrete Tremor is bleak, unbelievably so. In some ways, even bleaker than Naissance. Its walls are just as grey, but its horror is disgustingly more real. Klubnika does away with the ambiguity of a flat texture and entraps you, figuratively and literally, between noisy, rough, abrasive, cheap, reliable concrete. Every surface looks like it is screaming in agony.
It's all agreed to dig deep into a relentless effort that goes into starting a war in the first place. All of the apartment buildings are perfectly aligned in the green, and nobody attempts to stop the game in any manner.
Naissance's structure is cruel to its indifference. Concrete Tremor's structure is cruel by design. This is not the making of a rogue AI going through the motions. This is a clear, intentional message. You are nothing to us. Architecture this violent has to be man-made. It exemplifies perfectly everything that is so deeply wrong about this game. The walls are impressive, sure, but they are in a way reasonable. Their function is as obvious as their effectiveness. The pillars, however, radiate despair, confusion, and disempowerment. They stand as if to imprison the sky itself. This is what they want you to feel, that there is nowhere to run.
Mountains of concrete and rebar are top to side and dots running into buildings. While the money stopped to think or even prudest whether or not it was worth it.
The thing about man-made horrors beyond our comprehension, though, is that no matter how untouchable they may seem, they will always invite at least a little hope, that of being man-unmade.
Apartment buildings are perfectly aligned in the green, and the money perfectly aligned in the green. Just a pure concept, mountains of concrete and rebar, leading you into a relentless game, a conversation that messes with the human mind. Was it worth it?
Babbdi's strange absence of doors is likely the first thing anyone will notice upon loading in the game. A bare, empty concrete hallway with gaping holes where windows and doors should be. And as you start walking and think to yourself, wow, this place clearly hasn't seen people in decades, maybe even centuries. Oh. And now you understand Babbdi. This ghost town is haunted by the living. The people here don't walk somewhere, they linger. They linger down to the market every morning, they linger by the church and sit in the grass or anywhere really to do nothing for hours at a time. They linger up the stairs and through the alleyways. How many of them for all these towering buildings? 30-something? One less than yesterday, maybe? Never more.
Recentrer cet espace. C'est une manière de pousser à créer cette volonté d'avoir la raison du pourquoi de ceux qui traversent. Une sorte de symbiose avec cet environnement, quelque chose d'épuré, de grande distance à parcourir pour le forcer à sa propre histoire.
It's gray and it's sad, it's miserable, people suffering around every corner, but it's also so good to me. It's green, it's blue, it's open and honest. It's so comforting for a piece of art to take absolute rock bottom, pain, chaos, loss, and say with the shared strength of humanity's entire optimistic spirit, hey, it's gonna be okay. Take this baseball bat here. Knock yourself out. Have fun. And fun I had. Babbdi possesses a unique striking dissonance. You'll be having the time of your life climbing the highest peaks, spelunking the darkest corner, achieving unreasonable speeds or breaking even the rules of the game itself, yet take in your surroundings at any given time and you'll be looking at desolation, abandon, misery, and a rave? Look, it's weird. Babbdi is fucking weird. But what I got out of it was this. No matter how much worse things can get, how terrible and unlivable the world becomes, people will figure out a way to have sick-ass raves. Bad shit becomes a reason to make good shit. Another detail from Portal 2 I want to bring up that can help us understand Babbdi's masterful atmosphere of decay is the way in which the weathered concrete and rusty metal serving as the ruined foundations of the Aperture facility mirrors the imperfect yet stubborn human nature at the core of GLaDOS and the company at large. Similarly, the stripped-down buildings and infrastructure of Babbdi represents the humanity that was left behind to suffer in the wake of indifferent abandonment, now that they no longer serve the interests of the wider nation, yet persist nonetheless.
Beware, a massive, overgrown concrete tower which offers misstep, difficulty, frustration. The course might cost you a lot. There is, however, a lot of progress.
Of all the prisons we've looked at today, Beton Brutal might just be my favorite. It's by far the most difficult of these games to get through and shares NaissanceE's lack of any other people, but without the expanse, the promise of maybe something somewhere. You might be surprised to know that in Blame, journeys like the one in NaissanceE are mostly glossed over and serve as interstitials between encounters with the megastructure's many factions and denizens. In Beton Brutal, it's just you, just here, just now. To me, it's the loneliest of these games, yet still the homeliest. It wants you to succeed. It took me a long time to figure out why I found Beton Brutal to be a perfect foil to the other games I've mentioned so far, and others in the niche but burgeoning genre of ominous games about moving through merciless concrete structures. And it finally clicked while I was going over the Steam page in preparation of writing this part of the script.
Beton Brutal is a first-person parkour game which tries to replicate and build upon the parkour mechanics seen in Minecraft. Replicate and build upon the parkour mechanics seen in Minecraft. The parkour mechanics seen in Minecraft. Seen in Minecraft. Seen in Minecraft.
Yes, Beton Brutal is a game that sticks you at the bottom of a gigantic and derelict concrete pipe and tasks you with getting to the top with zero guidance or checkpoints. I might call it hard, or challenging, or stressful, but the last thing I would call it is merciless, or ominous. It's bright. It's uplifting, motivating. It boasts satisfying movement inspired by the most popular game of all time, the occasional chill and encouraging music, a beautiful and serene soundscape that morphs as you move through the pipe, several shortcuts, and even a practice mode. Let me put it this way. If Babbdi was a cozy rainy day that let me bask in my turmoil and freely process some emotions, then Beton Brutal is like a beautiful sunny afternoon, so vibrant it compels me to get outside and take some risks.
If things get too stressful, feel free to rest for a moment and take in your surroundings.
The people in Blame, Concrete Tremor, and Babbdi don't just share their building's color palette. Their environment has shaped them into raw facades, shattered entryways, and broken windows, strange formations you can only guess had a purpose once. They're usually indifferent to you, unhelpful, menacing, or outright hostile when approached, although they can also offer the occasional respite. Regardless of their attitude towards you, they're almost always idle, stuck. Ironically, I think what they need is a solid foundation and a goal to work towards. I'd love to see what a community built within the world of Beton Brutal would be like. In a way, actually, I even kind of already have, but we're slowly moving outside the scope of this video, so your homework for next time is going to be to play Limasse. I think broken things, worlds, and architecture are beautiful. I think concrete is often beautiful too, but I'm afraid they can both be made to break people as well. These 4 games all spoke to this duality of admiration and anxiety in some way, and I hope you enjoyed me trying to make sense of it all. This video was very hard to write and went through many different iterations. Frankly, I'm still not sure, as I'm speaking these words, what exactly it is. If you want to see more of the process and what ended up on the cutting board, I've got a Patreon where you can do just that and support me at the same time. Do make sure to play Naissance, Concrete Tremor, Babbdi, Beton Brutal, and even Portal 2 if any of them look interesting to you. And let me know if you know any games with similar sensibilities. I'd love to hear about it.